Hey, and welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. And today is my weekly update, number 43, and it is December 3rd, 2023. Well, it's been a week, and I've got a lot of things to show you. I got a quilt quilted, I think I've got 3 quilt tops finished, and I made some other bags, and just started on some new projects. So there's several things to show you, but before I do that, I just want to take a minute and give a special thank you to somebody, and that is Amy Dement, and she's a fellow YouTuber, and her channel is her name, Amy Dement. So yesterday, I was pleasantly surprised when in the evening I noticed my subscriber count started going up significantly. I was like, well, and I welcome all my new subscribers, and I thank all my old subscribers for their support. But I was a bit confused because it's been a few days since I'd posted a video, so I wasn't sure what was going on. Well, a little bit later, I saw Amy's video, who kind of shouted me out. So, thank you, Amy. Now, Amy, I do love. She is so funny, and she's very uplifting, and the way I aspire to talk about my quilts the way she does with her inspirations, and she throws a little bit of sarcasm and sass in there, which I can definitely appreciate. Now, Amy and I have a little bit of a rivalry, friendly joking going aside as to whether to pen or not to pen. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you know I love my pens. I pen everything. I overly pen, you know, and here is my infamous pen 10 that I have lots of pens, where Amy's not so much. Now, she has jokingly said a little bit ago that penning is for chumps. Well, all I have to say to that is, Amy, this chump sure does get a lot of things done. So in addition to our differences in penning, we also have different philosophies with scraps. Amy's amazing with her scraps quilts that she does. Where me, I kind of get overwhelmed with the scrap management. Now, I have done several scrap quilts, and I will continue to do scrap quilts. But I normally don't save my scraps unless they're about 1/4 of a yard or fat quarter size worth. So, but Amy loves all the scraps. She takes the scraps and she makes things, which is absolutely amazing. Now, in addition to my channel, Amy also shouted out a couple other channels. Another one was Holly from Dandelion Stitches, which I adore Holly too. She is very just uplifting and this joyful personality, and she does these unboxings where she gives her honest opinions, but she still does it in this joyful manner. So I definitely love Holly. Now, there was a couple other channels that I didn't know about, but I'll check those out when I get a chance. So Amy, even though, like I said, we have different opinions on penning and different philosophies on the scraps, but even though we have those differences, we still have a lot of similarities. Like, we're both quilters, we like to sew. I also know she likes yarn because I've seen her knitting in some of her videos. So we also have a lot of similarities. So even though we have differences, we can still appreciate each other and learn and inspire, which I think is a good metaphor for life. Even though people have differences, you can still learn and appreciate and inspire each other. Now, Amy also has this little closing that she likes to do that says, "You make the world more beautiful just by being in it." Well, Amy, I want to let you know that you made my world brighter yesterday just by being in it. So, enough with all the mushy gushy stuff. Let's talk about what I made. Okay, so I did manage to quilt one quilt on the long arm this week, so let's hang it up and take a look at it. So this is what I quilted on the long arm this week. This is a bookshelf quilt that I made several years ago that's just been waiting to be quilted. So I managed to get it on the long arm this week, and the pantograph I used had Actually, the pantograph's called Reading Room, but it's got glasses and some open books and some closed books on it. Now, just because I know I have a lot of new subscribers, the long arm I use is all hand guided. It's not computerized. So I use a paper pantograph and then I use the laser light to make this. But let's go in and we'll take a look at some of the quilting. So there are some of the glasses right there that you can start to see. And there, if you go up, there's another one. And there is an open book right there. Let's see if I can find one of the closed books here. I know they're there. Yep, there's one. It's hard to see. But that is a closed book. You can see the pages down there on the sides. There's another open book. Let me see if I can go back a little bit. So there's the top of the quilt. And zoom out a little bit. And just work our way down. So that is what I quilted on the long arm this week. This quilt is actually the second quilt that I have done like this. I had made another one for my daughter, like I said, several years ago. Instead of having the browns around it, it was done in more of the pinks and tealy colors. But this is the pattern that I used for that. And this is the Personal Library quilt, and I believe it's from Crimson Tate. Yep, from Crimson Tate. So I quilted that on the long arm this week. So let's talk about the quilt tops I made. And this is the first quilt top I finished. I'll show you up higher here in just a second. But this is the October Cotton Cuts Gnomes quilt. Now I didn't make a video putting this together because I have with all the others. But I just didn't with this one. And there is the top with the boy gnome. And that bat block is probably my favorite of these. And then we go down to the girl and that other accent block. Trying to get it all in at once here. Now this is going to be my second quilt top that I'm holding. Now this one is a small one, so I'm not hanging it up. Now this is also the second time I'm recording it because I don't know what happened to this part of the video, but it wasn't there. So I'll talk about that quilt top in a minute. But this is a Creative Notions box that was from a while ago. I know the boxes that I just opened or that I just started are from August and September of 2021. So this was sometime before then. But here's the quilt top, and this is just a small baby size quilt top. Now the actual pattern that came with this fabric was for like a machine mat, and I didn't want to do that. Now, with those Creative Notions boxes, they also give you a second idea or a subscriber block of the month, and that's what this was. So I used this block, and then I put it in that quilt top, and then I added my own fabric that I had from the Borders, which was the same line of fabric that they had given us, and my little sashing from just my normal bolts of Kona that I keep here on hand all the time. And this is the third top I finished this week. This is the Lori Holt Vintage Christmas that I've been working on. I don't know, it's been 2 or 3 years. Now, even though I said I've been working on it for 2 or 3 years, I work in things in rotation. So I would work on about 2 blocks at a time when the rotation came up to work on that. So that's why it's taken me so long. Although yesterday I spent all day working on just this because I wanted it done. So I'll go ahead and take a closer look here in a second at all of those blocks. Now I believe those are all 6.5 inch blocks that we put together. And I've got the ribbon borders here around it. Now when I bought this as a kit. And here is the kit. It came in this huge box. But I have all of this fabric in here. Well, those are some embroidery floss that I had, that I embroidered some eyes and things on. But I have this huge box and I have all this fabric left over. I mean, there's tons of fabric in here. This was bought from Fat Quarter Shop, and Fat Quarter Shop does do an excellent job in making sure you have more than enough fabric to make these kits. But my question is, do I go buy backing for this, just have a solid backing, or do I use all of this leftover scraps together and use a scrappy backing? Let me know what you think. Scrappy backing, or do I buy 108 and put on the back of it? Let me know. Me, I'm kind of thinking of doing a scrappy backing, but I'm not sure, because those scraps I probably won't use anyway. So I might as well use them up and save me some money. But let me know what you think. In the meantime, let's take a look at this quilt. So there's a look at that top. We're just going to work our way down here. All of those blocks. Yep. And there's the snowman. I'll zoom in on the snowman a little bit where I did some embroidery with the eyes and the nose. Come back out here a little bit. And work our way back down. And we're coming to the bottom of it. So what else did I work on this week? Well, I finished several of these little zipper pouch bags. Now these were from a Creative Notion subscription box. They came from the July 2021 box. Now Creative Notions is a subscription that I have canceled. I just got my last box last week or the week before, somewhere around then. But there we go. And they do all have these little zipper pulls, which came with the bag. That one's a Santa Claus and the tags. Zipper. They are lined inside. And I've got 5 of them. I have this one. And then I did this one as kind of a quilt as you go with the little reach. Zipper pull. The plaid lining. Number 3, there are 5 altogether. Now this one I just did some cross hatch quilting on the outside. Lined with just some black and white plaid. The zipper pull I used was a stocking. Again, all of this came in with the subscriptions. So the only thing I provided was the foam that I used for in these, because I prefer to put the foam, I don't know the actual name of it, that I buy in my bags, just because it helps it stand up, gives it more body. I know some people like to put quilt batting in it. I tend to stay away from quilt batting in bags just because it's much more floppier, and I don't like that. And all the corners have been boxed. And this charm is a little reindeer. Also, the subscription came with the little tags that I put on. This lining just has Christmas trees. And what I plan on doing with these bags is I plan on putting Christmas presents in them. That way I don't have to wrap them. And this is the last bag. Box corners, Christmas tree charm, and the lining. Okay, so what else did I do as far as piecing? Of course I did more. Let me move these out of the way. Things are getting kind of crowded. So I also worked on my Cotton Cuts November blocks, the gnomes. I did the boy gnome. And here's the boy gnome. And I did do a video putting this together. That's the boy gnome. This week, one of my goals is to do the girl gnome and one of the accent blocks is what I plan on doing this week. Another goal of mine is I want to get some binding done. Now, I buy these labels from Sweetwater, and they come in a sheet. And I've got 5 more labels, and I always put the year on them. So I've got 5 more labels that I need to use. So I plan on binding 5 more things this month by the end of the year. We'll see if that happens. But I want to get some binding done this week as well. And another goal is I need to quilt. I want to get my September gnome quilted. We'll see if that happens. So I worked on one more project, and then I've pulled another one to get started. Let me show you those. So those are both Creative Notions projects. Because this is my Creative Notion bag that I have in my rotation. Like I said, I rotate through things, and I have 2 projects in here. So this one is from the September 2021. Now this fabric, I absolutely love this fabric. I love blues, all blues. Now the project in here, I haven't started cutting out yet, but the project is this machine cover and ironing mat. Now, I didn't want to do this at first. However, they also usually provide another pattern if you wanted to do something else with it, and that is this pattern. And why I really like that table runner down there, that one, I'm not much of a table runner person. I will do them, but normally if I'm going to work on a project, a quilt, I like it to be at least lap size or larger, and that's just me. So even though I like that table runner, I was like, do I really want to do that and not use it? Probably not. So I think I am going to do this. This machine cover, I don't know if it's big enough to fit on my machine, but this may sound silly, but I figured even if it's not big enough, I could stack up some of my sew sampler boxes and put it over top as a decoration in the room. Why not? And this ironing board down here, well, I have separate stations for my sewing machine and my ironing and cutting. Right here is where I sit and do all my pressing and cutting, and my sewing machine is over across the room. And I prefer it that way just because it forces me to get up and move in between steps. That way I'm not sitting the whole time. But when I'm doing foundation paper piecing, I think it is good to have that ironing right there so you can press it from each thing. So I was thinking maybe I could do something like that and put it on my side when I'm doing foundation paper piecing. So I think I am going to do this after all, even though I didn't want to at first. So that is what I pulled out since I finished those zipper bags. And since I'd finished that other small project, quilt top, I pulled out my August Creative Notions bag, and let's see, what they had in it was this log cabin table topper, mug rugs, placemats type things. Again, these aren't normally things that I use and gravitate towards. Plus, I have done so many log cabin things, I just didn't want to do another one. But that's okay, because they had a second idea. And it was this. So I started making this. And I finished, well, put it back up. These 3 rows, I sewn those all together, and I am getting started on making these butterfly blocks. In that Creative Notion, sometimes they have these subscribers block of the month competitions, and people will submit these blocks of the month in, and then they'll make it into a quilt, which is what happened here. So I've made all these and put things together, and I am just working on these butterfly blocks. So see, there's one. And this was from a Lori Holt line of fabric called Stitch. Now these still need pressed. And that's why they don't have any pins in it yet. And the third row. And then I'm working on making those 4 patches into those butterfly blocks here. Let me pull it open. And then those will be those blocks. And I've got that whole stack right here with that. So that is everything I've worked on this week as far as quilting and sewing and stitching goes. Now, I do have a question for you. Now, Amy Dement and I were in a live, I don't know, last week, hosted by somebody else. And we were discussing how often you change your sewing machine needle. Now, me, I'm horrible at changing my sewing machine needle. I usually don't change my sewing machine needle until it breaks or my stitches don't look quite right. I just don't think about it. So I'm just curious. How often do you change your sewing machine needle? Let me know in the comments down below. And Amy, I did change my sewing machine needle last night, just so you know. All right, so let's talk about what else I did, because I still worked on cross stitch and I got a new yarn project going on. So this is my cross stitch project I'm currently working on. Now this is, well, it says it's a 13-part series, but if you count the frame that I'll be working all around it, it's really 14. So I started out in the middle with this pattern right here, which is kind of the biggest of all the 13 parts. And I'll show you the project progress so far. And this is where we are, working on it. Now last week I hadn't had any of the corners done, and I started adding all the yellow for that air balloon and down here with the dreams. And then after I finish this middle block, I'm going to go on to finish working the rest of the frame around that. And then after I get the frame, all these little blocks should go pretty quick because they're pretty small. And yes, this is a giant piece of 14 count Aida. It's a yard, basically. So it's 29.5 inches by 36 inches. So it's quite a big piece. And I think it's good just because it has a lot of these inspirational type quotes on it, which I think we all need a little inspiration at times. All right, let's show you my yarn project. So I started on a new yarn project this week. Now, this is a knit project. I know you've seen me do lots of crochet. And crochet, I would consider myself an intermediate to advanced crocheter. Let's put it this way, there's nothing I won't try. Sometimes things don't always come out the way we want. You know, like I had done a little anime critter a couple weeks ago. And even though the crochet was fine, it didn't come out quite right, and it was just because of how I sewed it, not necessarily how I crochet. But when it comes to knitting, I would only consider myself a beginner. Now, it has been years, and I mean years, probably 10 years or so. Maybe not that long, but it's been a while since I knitted anything. And last year I came across this like Fair Isle style hat that I wanted to do for knitting. But I'm kind of nervous about jumping into it because I haven't knitted in so long. So I decided to start out with a beginner project. And this project is a project that I had done when I first started quilting. And that is or not quilting, when I first started knitting, and that is this baby blanket right here. I had actually made my daughter a baby blanket just like this that was in purple. So, and I just wanted, and I know it was simple, and I just wanted something quick, simple that I could do to get me familiar with those knit and purl stitches before I attempt that hat I want to do. So, here's where I've been, and it's slow going, but like I said, it's just because I'm out of practice. So here we go. There it is. Now, my husband came home from work this week, and I was working on this, and he asked, what are you working on? I was like, it's a baby blanket. And he asked me, he's like, is there something you forgot to tell me? No, there is nothing to tell. It was just kind of funny. Yeah, those days are long over. All right, so that's what I'm working on with that. Like I said, I'm just doing this. To get familiar with those knit and purl stitches, because knitting is much different than crochet. What I'm going to do with it afterwards, I don't know. All right, and the last thing I worked on this week was my diamond painting. And here's a picture of what the diamond painting will look like when it's all done. The Holiday Tree Farm from Craftably. And this is where I'm at right now. Go back a little bit. So I'm just over halfway done. And I am still working right here in this square, if I can get to it. As you can see, there's blank places that I still need to fill in. So that's where I am with that. So that's everything I worked on this week. All right, till next time. Bye.